My name is Ryan Mitchell. I'm 34 years old, a civil engineer living in Austin, Texas, and I've been working in this field for over 12 years. I've always been the kind of man who thinks twice before speaking once, someone whose nature leans toward observation analysis, and that mindset has guided me in both my career and my personal life. I first met Emily Thompson 5 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party, and I still remember the way her smile lit up the room, a smile so disarming it could make you forget your own name. She worked as a marketing coordinator at a tech company, driven and ambitious, and when she talked about her future plans, there was a fire in her voice that drew me in. In those first few months, she seemed perfect, maybe even too perfect, and yet our relationship unfolded naturally without force. 8 months later, Emily moved into a house I had purchased 2 years earlier, a 3-bedroom property in a neighborhood steadily appreciating in value, bought with my own money and the result of my own effort. I never thought of putting her name on the deed, not because I didn't love her, but because it was my investment. Still, while the house belonged to me, what we built inside those walls felt like ours. Last December, I proposed at Zilker Park during the festival lights, slipping a 2-carat ring, for months of my salary, onto her finger while she cried and said yes, immediately rushing to share the moment on social media before either of us even called our parents. We set the wedding date for September, and everything seemed perfect, at least on the surface. But perfection can be deceptive, because even the strongest structures sometimes hide invisible cracks that only reveal themselves under pressure. Emily had always needed constant validation, and at first I found it endearing. She loved being noticed, being at the center of conversations, collecting compliments like trophies. I, being more reserved, thought we balanced each other out. I admired while she shined. But about 3 months before everything began to unravel, I noticed small changes. Emily became guarded with her phone, flipping it face down whenever it buzzed, and her nights out with work friends grew more frequent, her explanations vague and inconsistent. The stories didn't line up. She claimed she was with Sarah, yet Sarah would post photos at home with her husband. She'd say happy hour at the office, but she came back smelling a cologne that wasn't mine. Each detail, taken alone, could be coincidence, but together they formed a pattern that was impossible to ignore. I didn't confront her right away. That's not my nature. I observe, collect data, and act only when the picture is clear. Then came Saturday, March 15th, a date etched into my memory. I was reviewing documents in my home office when Emily knocked and walked in, her expression already telling me this was a conversation I wouldn't want to hear. "Ryan, we need to talk," she said. I closed my laptop and asked what was on her mind. She sat across from me, eyes down, and finally admitted, "I need some time to think." The words floated between us like smoke, heavy and impossible to grasp. Time to think about what? About us? About herself? 5 years together, an engagement, and now she needed time. I asked if she wanted to break up. "No," she answered quickly, too quickly, insisting she just needed space to figure out what she really wanted. My instincts told me this was a half-truth, a poorly constructed cover. Still, I agreed, not because I believed her, but because I was already processing the situation, preparing my next move. That night, she packed her bags and left for a friend's apartment. I kissed her forehead, carried her suitcase to the car, and then sat alone in our living room, on the couch where we had shared countless quiet nights. And I smiled not with joy, but with a strange sense of clarity, as though the fog had lifted and the problem was finally defined. The first few days after her departure were strange, the silence almost suffocating at first. No updates about her day, no presence beside me in bed, no background chatter. But that silence also became a kind of freedom, a quiet in which I could finally think without distraction. By Wednesday, curiosity, or perhaps intuition, pushed me into action. Emily had left behind the iPad we used for Netflix, still logged into her accounts. I'm not the type to snoop, but I opened Instagram anyway. At first, everything seemed normal. Selfies, work posts, old pictures of us. Then I noticed a photo taken at a downtown coffee shop I didn't recognize, cropped strangely, as if someone had been cut out of frame. Switching to Facebook, I found more hints, common from names I didn't recognize, like from profiles I didn't know. One name appeared repeatedly, Marcus Chun. I froze at the sight of it, because Marcus wasn't just anyone. He was the ex-boyfriend she had once mentioned in passing, the man who had broken her heart 3 years before she ever met me. And now his name was back, resurfacing like a ghost, haunting the edges of her life and, by extension, mine. According to Emily, Marcus had once cheated on her with a co-worker and then vanished from her life overnight, leaving her devastated and forcing her to rebuild her ability to trust again, a scar she carried into our relationship. Apparently, Marcus had recently returned to Austin, now working at an app development startup, successful judging by his polished social media photos, and very much single. From what I gathered, Emily and Marcus had rekindled contact about a month before she asked for our so-called break, their interaction starting subtly on social media before creeping into something more. On Friday night, I got the confirmation that turned suspicion into certainty. James, my best friend since college, called me around 8. "Ryan, I don't know if I should tell you this," he began hesitantly. "Go ahead," I told him, my voice steady though my pulse quickened. "I saw Emily today on Rainey Street. She was with an Asian guy, short hair, blue dress shirt. They looked pretty close." Rainey Street, Austin's most romantic bar district. Not exactly where someone goes to reflect on life alone. "Did you get any pictures?" I asked, forcing my tone to remain calm. "Man, I thought it was kind of stalkerish, but yeah, I did. Sending it to you now." 2 minutes later, the photo appeared on my phone. Emily laughing, her hand resting intimately on Marcus Chen's arm, their body language unmistakable. That wasn't nostalgia or a casual meetup. It was intimacy, current and undeniable. I saved the photo without hesitation and immediately shifted into planning mode. My engineer's brain already outlining the steps. First, documentation. I collected every piece of evidence. Screenshots from social media, James's photo, even the text messages where Emily claimed she needed space. In my line of work, documentation is everything. A project without it is worthless, and the same principle now applied to my personal life. Second, asset protection. The house was entirely mine, bought 2 years before Emily entered my life. Still, I called my lawyer, Mark Peterson, that Monday to confirm. "Ryan, under Texas law, she has no rights to the property." He reassured me, "You're not married. There's no recognized common law marriage, and you purchased it before the relationship began. You're safe." Third, asset appraisal. Over 5 years, Emily and I had accumulated plenty of belongings, furniture, appliances, art, but because I kept every receipt and proof of payment, I realized I had funded nearly 80% of everything. Emily's contributions were mostly aesthetic rather than financial, not out of malice, but because I earned more and never insisted on strict fairness. Meanwhile, she maintained her silence, no calls, just a dry text Monday evening. "How are you? Hope you're well. Still thinking about everything. Kisses." Kisses. 5 years together, an engagement, and our unraveling was reduced to that. I replied neutrally, "I'm good. Taking my time to talk when you feel ready." But inside, I was already finished waiting, finished hoping. I was ready to expose a full lie, protect what was mine, and set the stage for a very different conversation than Emily imagined when she came back. The following Wednesday, more truth arrived uninvited. Sarah, one of Emily's friends whom I had always respected, messaged me privately on Instagram. "Ryan, I can't stay quiet anymore. Emily isn't at my apartment like she told you. She's staying at a downtown hotel with Marcus." So the break to reflect was nothing but a premature honeymoon with her ex-boyfriend, while our home remained her backup plan in case the new fantasy collapsed. That night, I made a decision. I called David Rodriguez, the real estate agent who had helped me buy the house 3 years earlier. "David, I need to sell fast." "Any problem, Ryan?" he asked cautiously. "Change of plans." I said evenly. "How long to get on the market?" "A house like yours? 2 weeks to find a buyer, 3 to close." "Perfect. Let's do it." He hesitated. "Why the rush?" I glanced around the living room, the couch where Emily and I had watched movies, the dining table where we planned the wedding, the paintings she insisted on buying, and realized they were just objects, no longer anchors of memory, but reminders of betrayal. Sometimes a house is just a house, I said, and houses can be sold. David chuckled softly. Got it. Paperwork starts tonight. For sale sign goes up tomorrow. When I hung up, I smiled, not bitterly, but with certainty. Emily wanted time to think. Fine. I was using that same time to move forward, to rebuild my life without someone who never valued it. By Thursday morning, the for sale sign stood in the yard, discreet yet definitive, listing the house at $485,000, about $15,000 below market value, David explained, but still a strong profit over what I had paid. The first buyers arrived Saturday, a young couple. He a serviceman from Bergstrom Air Force Base. She a nurse, wandering through the rooms with wide eyes and quiet excitement, the way Emily and I once had. It's a beautiful home, the wife said. Are you upgrading something bigger? Change of plans in life. I replied simply. By Sunday, they made an offer for $175,000 cash. Financing already pre-approved. David called me euphoric. Ryan, will close in 2 weeks. Deals rarely move this smoothly. Meanwhile, Emily's pattern continued. A vague message every few days. Hi, how are you? Still sorting out my thoughts. Or, hope you're doing well. Need a few more days. Each time, I responded neutrally, buying myself time while internally orchestrating every detail of my exit. I separated our belongings with methodical precision, turning 5 years of shared life into labeled boxes. Anything I had receipts for stayed with me. Anything she bought went into boxes for her. Shared purchases were appraised, but most tilted my way since I had paid. The 65-inch TV? Mine bought on Black Friday 2022, receipt filed neatly. The leather couch? A gift from me, though she chose it, still mine by paper trail. Even the dishes and appliances bore my name on receipts. My obsession with records, once mocked, had become my shield. By Friday, before the key handover, I scheduled movers and arranged donations for the rest. Military precision, efficient timed, no improvisation. While Emily drifted in her illusions with Marcus, I executed my plan with the calm certainty of a man who no longer asked why, only how soon. The confrontation came in the second week when I received an unexpected visitor, Marcus Chun. He arrived on a Thursday afternoon, pulling up in a sleek black Tesla Model S, perfectly dressed, exuding the kind of self-assurance that belongs to a man who believes he holds the upper hand, or at least pretends to. You must be Ryan, he said smoothly, extending his hand. I'm Marcus, Emily's friend. Friend? I nearly laughed aloud, but only did so inwardly. I knew exactly who he was. Can I come in? I'd like to talk about the situation. Against my better instincts, but driven by a cold, professional curiosity, I let him in. I wanted to see firsthand how the man who helped unravel my engagement would attempt to justify his role in it. Marcus settled onto the couch, scanning the room with thinly veiled approval. Nice place. Emily always talked about how you two built a beautiful home together. We did, I replied evenly. I paid. She decorated. He gave a nervous laugh before leaning forward. Look, Ryan, I know the situation is complicated, but I want you to understand it wasn't planned. I came back to Austin, we reconnected by chance, and you both decided that 5 years of relationship were worth less than a handful of nights at the Driscoll Hotel. I cut in. His face froze. How do you know where? Free advice, I interrupted coolly. When lying about not planning anything, avoid using your credit card hotels that could be easily tracked. The truth was, I didn't know exactly where they were staying. I had simply guessed the most expensive hotel in Austin, but his expression confirmed everything. He tried to recover. Listen, Emily's confused. She doesn't want to hurt you, but she can't deny how she feels about me. Maybe it's better for everyone if you two talk and reach an amicable agreement. An amicable agreement? I echoed, my voice dripping with sarcasm. You mean I step aside so you can both continue guilt-free? He shrugged faintly. Something like that. I stood and walked to the window where the for sale sign outside gleamed in the sunlight. Tell me, Marcus, does Emily know you're here? No, He admitted, I thought it'd be better to talk man to man. Did she tell you she's staying at the hotel with you? Or did she claim to be at a friend's house, reflecting on life? His silence was answer enough. I get it, I continued calmly. Emily didn't tell you she lied to me, and you didn't tell her you came here. You two are already building a relationship on lies and omissions. That's an interesting foundation for a romance. Marcus stood abruptly, discomfort radiating off him. I just wanted to avoid unnecessary drama. I walked to the door and opened it wide. There won't be any drama. Relax. He stepped out but paused before leaving. Emily really cares about you, Ryan. She's just following her heart. Of course she is, I said dryly. And when her heart changes again, like it did 5 years ago when she met me, and like it did now when you came back, I'm sure you'll understand perfectly. Marcus said nothing, slid into his Tesla, and drove away. For the first time in weeks, I laughed, not bitterly but with clarity. The very next day, Emily texted me, Hi, love. I think I'm ready to talk. Can it be this weekend? Love. After 2 weeks at a hotel with her ex, she still called me love. I typed back, sure. Sunday at 3 p.m. at our house. Our house. Though technically it would only be mine for another 48 hours. That Sunday at 2:30, I sat in the empty living room. The echo of silence replacing the life that once filled it. Boxes were stacked neatly. Furniture draped in sheets. Bare walls marked where paintings once hung. When Emily's car pulled up 30 minutes early, I wasn't surprised. Nervousness had always made her rush. I saw her alone in the driveway, checking her makeup in the mirror before walking to the door. Her keys still worked. I heard her familiar footsteps cross the threshold, then pause as the emptiness registered. Ryan? Her voice wavered. In the living room. I called back. She appeared in the doorway and froze. Nothing remained but 2 beach chairs I had borrowed from a neighbor. The home she once cherished had become a hollow shell. What happened here? She whispered. Have a seat, I said calmly, gesturing to the chairs. She lowered herself slowly, still stunned. Her hair was down, and she wore the blue blouse I had bought her last Christmas. Ironic. Ryan, where's our stuff? Your things. I pulled out an envelope. They're in a storage unit on Riverside Drive. 6 months prepaid. Everything demonstrably yours is there. She opened the envelope and found a key and a meticulous 3-page inventory. But the rest, our furniture, our TV. Emily, I interrupted softly, where were you really staying during these weeks of reflection? She hesitated. At Sarah's. I told you. Lie number 1. I said, my tone steady. Sarah told me herself you weren't there. Try again. Her face flushed crimson. Ryan, let me help you. Driscoll Hotel, executive suite under Marcus Chen's name. About $350 a night plus room service. Do you want me to go on? She went silent, then finally whispered, How did you find out? I met her eyes. Emily, you didn't want space to think. You wanted to test if your feelings for Marcus were still alive, using our house as a fallback if they weren't. That wasn't confusion. It was a calculated lie. Tears streamed down her cheeks. It wasn't like that. I was confused. Confused enough to lie? Confused enough not to spend even one night alone? Confused enough to send Marcus here to negotiate with me like we're trading assets. Her eyes widened. He came here? Oh, you didn't know? I smiled bitterly. Your new boyfriend came to propose. I amicably let you go to avoid drama. Quite romantic, don't you think? She buried her face in her hands. Ryan, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I can explain. Can you explain why you lied about Sarah? About the hotel? Why you didn't have the decency to end us before starting with him? I was scared, she whispered. Can you explain why Marcus knows details about this house only someone deeply intimate would know? Silence. Emily, I understand perfectly. You two reconnected earlier than I realized. You wanted to test your chemistry, but instead of honesty, you invented this break to keep me as your safety net. She lifted her head, voice trembling. What if I say I realize my mistake? That I won't come back? That you're the one I love? For the first time in weeks, I truly laughed. Emily, look around. What do you see? An empty house, she said softly. Exactly. Do you know why it's empty? Because I sold it. Closed the deal last Friday. The keys were handed over this morning. Her jaw fell open. You sold our house? Correct. My house. Bought with my money before you ever arrived. With the profit, I've already put a down payment on a new property in Denver. I move next week. She shot to her feet. Ryan, you can't. We can fix this. Fix this? I rose as well. You had 5 years to be sure about us. 1 year of engagement to be sure about marriage. And it took you just 2 weeks with Marcus to decide I wasn't enough. Now you want to fix it because your plan B collapsed. You didn't come back for me, Emily. You came back because Marcus wasn't what you imagined. Her tears turned to desperate sobs. Please, it can't end like this. I gently wiped a tear from her cheek one last time. It can. And do you know why? Because you taught me something important. What lesson? She asked through sobs. That when someone asks for time to think about you, they've already decided. They're just looking for an easier exit. I picked up my jacket and walked toward the door. You have an hour to collect anything you forgot. After that, leave the keys in the mailbox. The new owners move in tomorrow. Ryan, wait, she cried. I paused but didn't turn around. Emily, you wanted freedom to explore your feelings. Now I have mine. The freedom to live without wondering whether the person beside me truly wants to be there. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. From the car, I caught one last glimpse of her standing in the doorway, crying. A pang of sadness flickered in me, but regret never came. 3 months later, I was in Denver, running my own consulting business, thriving more than I'd expected, surrounded by new people, new conversations, and a life no longer haunted by doubt. Emily sent me emails, the first desperate, begging for another chance, the second bitter, accusing me of cruelty, the third, months later, subdued, admitting she understood and wishing me well. From mutual friends, I learned she and Marcus ended things just 6 weeks after my move, the fantasy crumbling once reality set in. The greatest lesson I carried with me was this. When someone hesitates about whether they want you, the strongest answer you can give is to show them you are certain you deserve someone who never will.